Wow. Um, two amazing presentations, lots and lots of information and detail in them. And so we've got a 10-minute session for questions to either of our speakers, please. So any questions from the audience, please? We'll start at the top right and then we'll come down here.
Hi, me again. Safety and Learning Lead for General Practice at NHS Resolution. For Una and the rest of the panel, I just wanted to ask, pressure ulcers seems to be related to nursing care, and information doesn't often get passed or shared to the doctors unless they really, really have broken down. And I just wondered, does the wound care strategy and programme include information on how to see the patient more holistically? Because I've noticed like discharge summaries don't include pressure ulcer care. Patients are discharged to families after having 4 hourly turns, then go home and do nothing. So I just wondered that population health type look and including nutrition in that, is that disseminated more widely?
It is. That's a relief. I didn't know if this was switched on or not. I haven't got to fiddle with anything.
No fiddling needed.
No fiddling, thank God, I'm not safe. Yes. Yes, it is, in a word. As I say, I hope the recommendations I'm hoping will be published. I don't think it'll be this week, hopefully next week, or very soon, so look out for them. In those, we specifically say what we thought should be common sense, but never trust common sense, is that if you're passing a patient to another clinician, give them some information to work on, which is exactly what you're asking for, I think. We do say that specifically. We also say, please will you send them home with enough dressings or whatever you need so that they can you can have continuity of care. The other thing that will make a difference that's beyond my control, but we are campaigning for, is that if in the future we get to, which I believe the correct term is the Federated Information Platform or something like that, where information flows up, that sort of information should move between the different providers. But that is something that is way beyond the ability, that is an NHS digital issue to resolve. But you're right, without information you're working blind, and that is unsafe. I completely agree.
Thank you.
It's the joy of changing organisations. Of course, NHS Digital no longer exists and it's now part of NHS England.
Sorry, whatever they now call that team.
We'll part that one.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Can we have the mic over here, please? Thank you.
It seems quite a lot of resources spent on wound, especially pressure shock, wound management. How about the prevention? Because once the wound starts, it's just difficult to
Oh, you're
manage.
absolutely right. Our work is very much focused on prevention. Obviously, prevention of pressure ulcers, without a doubt. Surgical wounds, slightly more complicated because that can depend on what the type of surgery is, and it's so multifaceted depending on what type of surgery is being received. The leg ulcers, I'm allowed to talk about leg ulcers because they are the biggest
You
group.
go for it.
Yeah.
Nothing secret in this room.
No, we completely agree. The focus of our leg and foot ulcer work is get patients seen really fast when it's a wound rather than an ulcer. And it's interesting, what we've been quite surprised by with that, pleasantly surprised, is 2 or 3 years ago we started recommending people who presented at a GP or wherever with a wound that wasn't on their leg, that wasn't getting better, we should put them into light compression. We had no evidence for that, but it just felt like the right thing to do, given that people can go and buy flight socks from a chemist anywhere. We felt it was low risk, potential harm. What's really surprised us is the number of people that have healed in just light compression. I'm not pushing light compression for all patients as a cure, but it has surprised us, which we think might be a preventative approach, exactly as you're describing. I'm trying to persuade a university to put in a NIHR bid to research this because I'd like to know the answer.
I think there's more should be done for prevention.
Agree.
I mean, it's not just the human body. You've got to think about probably those people suffer from pressure sore. They spend long time rest in bed.
Yeah, our new recommendations spend far more time proportion on prevention than they do on treatment, far more.
I mean,
so
the
we would
prevention
agree.
also include like the quality of bed mattress
Yeah,
in the ward.
yeah.
It seems nobody noticed that.
So I guess the biggest question contained within this is around that part that you mentioned about data not flowing correctly up and down the system, enabling us, because when you think about improvement skills, improvement methodology, and you think about Plan, Do, Study, Act. I mean, you mentioned earlier PDSA, which for me often means please do something, anything. But for the improvement methodology, it's Plan, Do, Study, Act. The thing we fail often at is at the end of the studying, what we tend to do is act on what we've seen rather than act on prevention, and saying, actually, can we stop it in its entirety? So could you answer about the improvement that could be made if we did have that data? And then, Alec, could you also say about how the data from your app and from the work that you're doing would feed into prevention, or could feed into prevention in the same way?
Yes. With the Act, you're absolutely right. There's making sure you've got adequate pressure relieving surfaces, and that's not just mattresses. If a patient's got a brilliant mattress on their bed, but is sitting out of the day and hasn't got a chair that is the right shape or a right cushion, then yes, you're not doing the job properly. So there's equipment. There's also repositioning, which tends to be forgotten.
Yes.
And if you're going to reposition, you need to have enough staff who know what they're doing and know why they're doing it in order to do it. And you also need to have patients who, and I know it can be a challenge, particularly when we're talking about dementia or anything like that, but patients that you can explain why it is important, and you have the skills, even if it's difficult to explain, to persuade them in a way, and that can be done with patients with dementia, of course it can, that they are willing. So we're all in it together. But you're absolutely right. My concern is the focus on the incident, clinical incident reporting. The Act seems to have been to punish rather than actually try to, that's the action, that's not an appropriate action. What we need is, okay, there's a problem here, what do we need to do to solve that problem?
Especially those 4-hourly turn. Sometimes the patient turned by some sort of non-trained staff, like care assistant. They may just make it worse. It can be in all different positions they turned.
Okay.
So we've got to be.
Alec, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, I think Una mentioned that there's obviously a lot of data collected in the NHS. I think from our experience, the maturity of the different systems is stark. I think you can go to one part of the country and you'll find a very digitally mature setup. Another area, not so much. I think even in the areas that are digitally mature, as Una's mentioned, I think that flow of data and the accessibility of it, I think we encounter that the clinicians that we work with can't access the data that they want to access. Not so much the clinical support app, because that's not really a data collection tool, but the survey work that I talked about. As I say, we've got a data set of 12,000 wounds within that now. It's something we've been doing for a number of years. And
you will align it with the new standard, won't you?
Well, and the good thing, and the great thing about it, it's not set in stone. So, and we do find there's a huge demand for that. But as I say, because services literally aren't able to get their own data, so we can provide that.
But we should be doing it without having to go to companies. I
Yeah.
mean, we're very grateful for the help, but that shouldn't be right.
No,
What company would, if we were a manufacturing company, what company would say, oh, can you please sort our data for us? You know, you'd be giving away information valuable.
Yeah,
it's worry.
I think it's just a very, sadly, given the amount of money that's been invested in digital in the NHS over the years, it is still a very disjointed. Well, you don't need me to tell you, it's a very disjointed system. But it is improving.
And I think for me, involving the patient in some of this is really important. I will use one of my favourite little annoyances about being a patient who spends a lot of time in hospital. I also spend a lot of time awake at night because I don't like the way that the wards feel in the daytime. So I spend a lot of time awake, also answering those pesky emails from NHS England colleagues who forget that I'm in. What I find ridiculous is I wake up in the morning and on the outside of the board there's the comfort ward report, comfort round report, that tells me that the patient was asleep and resting, or that I was turned even during the night. Well, I can damn well tell you I wasn't.
So that's lies.
And it's utterly, it does happen quite a lot that we create these wonderful tick box exercises and then people do what they think they need to do, which is tick the box, rather than actually do the work that is required.
Can I come back on that?
Please do. Yeah.
One of the things we've done as well for the last 18 months, we've worked with the Patient Engagement Network.
Yes.
We tried to write patient and carer resources. I don't think we did too badly because it was COVID and we were doing our
It was actually
best.
all right. I read them. They
Oh,
were
bless
fine.
you. But we think we can do better. So we've decided to spend part of our very small budget. We are actually engaging, and we have a patient and carer group who are writing our resources, but they are writing them, but they are consulting with us, so it's the other way around.
Yes.
Now, with pressure ulcers, we've got quite a few impresses. I don't think we've got any published yet. We've got some very close. One of which is, what should patients know? But the other one is, what should a patient's loved ones know?
Yeah.
Because some of our patients are so vulnerable. You know, I don't know if any of you have had relatives in hospital. I certainly have. And God's sake, I'm director of the National Wound Care Strategy Programme, and I found it so difficult to go to that organisation to say, your care's not actually what it should be. And I found that difficult. So goodness knows what it's like for somebody who doesn't know. So we're putting together resources that will enable carers and patients to be able to ask questions and to look out for what good looks like, because you should be able to challenge that.
Brilliant. Time for two more, I think. So, Sir here and then Sir at the back, if that's okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Hi, I'm also from NHS England, but it's quite big and it could be from anywhere, really. My query was really around, and it's sort of both. It's around the education and it's around prevention. And it really goes to your love of ulcers, and it's almost from a personal thing you were talking about at a personal level. So my mum, for example, has got dementia and got a call. She's actually in the Midlands. I'm based in London, to say that, you know, injury on the leg. And I was just thinking, I'd actually seen her, hadn't known about it, hadn't heard anything or whatever. And given that a lot of our patients who will have these sort of incidents or whatever are going to be often elderly, relatively vulnerable and so on. A lot of them are in care homes. A lot of the things, I think it's great you were talking about the education, and I'll take it from anywhere, company or, produced ourselves. But how do we get it actually to those in a format that people need, particularly people in care homes? Because all they do is, when they notice it, they'll perhaps ring up the doctor and hope somebody comes and sees them. And basically they'll prescribe antibiotics because they haven't even got the, it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what
our plan is.
What our plan is.
Yes. We are engaging with the, is it called the Care Organisation, which is the national body to promote the resources. The resources we've written are actually aimed at multi-level, so for care assistants in care homes as well. We are, and we do consult with them. We were working with NHS England to develop some even simpler resources for care assistants, but that project seems to have disappeared. We put a lot of work in, but it wasn't our project, so I don't know what's happened with that. I would love to see, I would hope that by making it free and accessible, that's as well we can do, by developing patient and carer resources, which aren't just loved ones as carers, but also professional carers, we would hope we hit it that way. We're doing everything we can think of, but what we really need is a system change, that wound care is actually an issue that deserves attention. And we are, I mean, if any of, I've got no shame here, we've been asked to present the Efficiency and Productivity Executive Group in 2 weeks' time to try and get some of our work on the national agenda as a must-do. And I think that's what's needed. It made a big difference for pressure ulcers. I don't think we're there yet, but we need a similar thing for all these things. And until we get there, I just think it's patted on the head as a nursing thing, and it's not just a nursing thing, it's for everybody.
We've got one more at the back, and then, if you don't mind, do you want to take that one first? Take that one first, then. We'll ask these two questions together, though.
Hi, thank you. So I'm a primary care network lead, and in the community setting, my background is district nurse, and I have a great passion for pressure ulcers. And my question is around education and prevention as well, because the data has shown that although we do have this high prevalence of pressure ulcers, there is a greater presentation in people with darker skin tones in terms of education and recognition. Now, in our time, we were taught to look for redness and things like that. That has changed. It should be looking at changes in the patient's normal skin presentation. And I'm just wondering if, within your recommendations, if there's anything to address that, and taking it right back down to the university education, looking at skin tone bias, also getting patients and their carers and family members to recognize that different people of different skin tones will present differently and would also heal differently.
Yeah.
That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, good news for you. It is in there. We care about it deeply as well. We're working with researchers who are experts in this field, and not only are we looking at it for our pressure ulcer outputs, we're looking at it for all our outputs because we think it's really important. So yes, there's always more you can do, but it is definitely mentioned in there, and we no longer talk about, or if we talk about redness, we make the point, redness is not, it looks different in different colour skins. So I hope to God we got the language right. We've tried really, really hard, and if we haven't, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll take that back. We haven't published yet. I'll take that back because whether it draws the eye too much. Good point.
It's really important that everybody involved knows the difference in different skin tones
Yes.
and different colours. The
Yeah.
classic one for me recently was the pulse oximetry data that said for
Yeah.
people of colour we lose pulse oximetry information. So
Yeah.
it's very similar in that sense.
Can
I
I
have
just
the
say,
last
if
question?
you get time to, I'll be very quick. If you get time tonight, would you drop an email to NatWound Strat? It'll get to me. It's on our slides, and just because then I've got it written in writing, and I can say, and it gives me more power. I know I'm supposed to be in charge.
Last question, sir.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm an anaesthetist and a perioperative physician by background, so I think building on the education theme, I think we've missed a trick in medical education,
Yes.
and we've missed a trick in surgical postgraduate education because, as you've said, wound care is a nursing thing. It isn't.
No.
If you don't get those factors correct before the surgery, the likelihood of a wound infection or a wound breakdown is very high. You know, so I am constantly battling against my surgical colleagues to say, get their anemia sorted out, get their nutrition sorted out, get them to stop smoking, get them to lose weight, etc., etc. I think from your national role, I think there is a real emphasis should be going in medical education and postgraduate surgical education. I think that is the prevention and the education of the surgeons or the upcoming surgeons to actually say, you need to get these right before you operate on elective patients.
We are about to go out to consultation very soon on the surgical wound recommendations. We'd be delighted if you'd feedback to us and anybody else in the room who's got that background, because we really want to engage with the surgical community. Anything we can do to pull that forward, all help gratefully received. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Could you show your appreciation, please, for the speakers?